Hi, in this video, we are going to discuss about Amazon sageMaker. Because before I'm getting into Amazon sageMaker, so for what purpose sageMaker is being used is what something which I must explain to you. As in when we are working as a business analyst to understand the requirements, subsequently accordingly providing solutions for any customer requirements is something which is needed for any BA role. Now, when we are working on artificial intelligence, especially one of the prime area is called machine learning. Hope you know that because machine learning is one of the subset under artificial intelligence when we are transforming ourselves into that segment. So there are different machine learning tools which normally we use. One of its kind called TensorFlow because in the previous videos I have videos I made a video on TensorFlow, one of the machine learning tool which normally we use in the field of artificial intelligence. So one more prominent tool, especially in the cloud environment, and that too, the cloud service provider called AWS, when we talk about, and because Amazon Web Services, one of the prominent cloud service provider in the field of cloud environment, like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, right? So different cloud service providers we have. In this, AWS is one of the cloud service provider. In this cloud service provider, when we are working on the industry, whenever we are working on the project and when we have taken a decision to work on cloud environment, which we have taken as AWS, in context to the business analyst roles and responsibilities are concerned. So one of the tool, especially for machine learning tools and all, we use majorly for a business analyst is to have a knowledge over Amazon sageMaker. This is one of the tool normally we use in the industry. So Amazon sageMaker is something more required and as well as more needed for the role of a business analyst, to be honestly speaking, because business analysts are the people who gather the requirements, subsequently providing solutions, all that. In this regard, this Amazon sageMaker majorly used for us to build and as well as deploy the different ML models and all. Whatever the generic business analyst responsibilities we have and all everything were anyway, those are all known to everyone. So apart from that, having a knowledge over sageMaker is also something required. So majorly useful for not only for BA, even people who are into data sciences background, right? So all these people can also use this. Okay, so here you can see this is where generally sageMaker tool is all about. So wherein we have a tensor board over here, because if you remember when I explained about the tensor flow, because if you can see here, right? So yesterday in the last session, I have explained about tensor flow, right? So tensor flow is one of the machine learning tool widely used when we are working on AI part, all that. In the same context, whenever we are working on AWS, so we have tensor board we call it as. So wherein this tensor flow board where we can visualize it, right? So if you want to visualize any metrics to be performed with, right? So whatever the visualization process of launching different tensor boards applications, at the same time, whatever the kind of monitoring and as well as visualization metrics and all everything, this tensor board is what something which is being used here. So at the same time, sageMaker Studio is also majorly used for us to use for as an IDE, I can say, because it's like different IDEs like Eclipse, right? So IntelliJ IDE, right? So different IDEs we have whenever we are working on the programming and all. Generally, IntelliJ, all these IDEs will be used where all the Java programs and all everything will be executed on that. In the same manner, when we are working on the cloud environment, so one of the uh, option we have here, it called sageMaker Studio, which is majorly worked as an IDE for machine learning. This is one thing which normally we need to use. At the same time, if you want to create any kind of sageMaker lab as separate, especially whenever we have taken premium services of learning all these, So wherein we have to create a free account and we can use it. But SageMaker Studio Lab is not something rightly useful for all the people, especially who are deep into machine learning, data science backgrounds and all. Those people require that, but not to an extent possible. Whoever should have a knowledge overall understanding from the context of BA and all everything is not something required. So because this is all completely creating a lab where we have to create machine learning projects and all everything, right? So to create machine learning projects and all, this is what something which normally we use. From the implementation perspective, I'm talking about, not from the development perspective, not from the requirements perspective. Next, we have a R Studio, which is of majorly used for IDEs and all, as I told you, for one more IDE, R Studio IDE is also there. Next, one more we have is called Profiler, majorly used whatever the kind of learning models and all, everything is required and all, everything Sage Profile Maker is one of the tool which normally we used in the Agile AWS Agile SageMaker. Now, when we want to work on this, whenever being into business analysis, when we want to work on the machine learning tools, especially in context to Amazon SageMaker itself is concerned, there are some role managers where we have to configure the role managers here, wherein we have to create different roles for the people who are maintaining, right? So in order to establish the kind of rules and configuration permissions and policies and all everything, this creation of roles is what something we have to do. Next, if there is any kind of life cycle configurations is what something we have to be performed with. Because to perform this life cycle configurations and all, we have an option called Jupyter Lab, where here this life cycle configurations and all everything we can create, right? So create configuration, wherein we have to provide some configuration script settings and all that. And whatever the required scripting which we have to be taken, right? So whatever the different scriptings we have. So wherein if you can go to the GitHub and all, there are different scripts which are available. So SageMaker configuration scripting will be there, wherein different scripts will be there in this, right? So we have different scriptings for everything, whatever is required and really needed. Right? Those kind of scriptings has to be updated so that this configuration can be taken place. So configuration is one of the key and prominent area where we have to be focused more when we are working on it. Next, if you are going for SageMaker dashboard, so wherein if you want to create any kind of SageMaker options where we want to create any kind of domain, right? So if you want to create or open any kind of SageMaker domains and all, here we have an option where we can open SageMaker domain and we can use it subsequently. So this is how and where generally SageMaker is something which normally we use it whenever we are working on to the machine learning side, especially from the context of business analysis, I am saying, because not in a hands-on experience as a machine learning expert, as in when we are working on data scientist. I'm not saying from that context because developing in machine learning, using machine learning and all in projects, developers will be taking care of all that, all the data scientists, all that. But whereas from the context of business analyst, having a knowledge over how to configure the lifecycle configurations at the same time, if you want to create any kind of roles, right? So whatever the roles we have, right? So for example, we want to create different roles for even for business analyst, right? So here we need to create any kind of business analyst roles do we have, right? So generally this is what something which normally we have to use it for, right? So this is generally different business analysis roles is what something which we have to be used with. So this is all something which normally we use when we are working on the roles itself is concerned. So these are the different activities which normally we use it whenever we are working on the activities when we are performing the roles itself is concerned. This configuration of SageMaker domain, setting up the domains at the same time, creating the kind of roles what we have, right? So that it can be a role of BA, right? So what are the BA roles do we have, right? So at the same time, we need to write down the descriptions. At the same time, whatever the permissions you required, right? So because we need to set up, right? For example, we are working on this wherein we need to compute the roles where we have to select it for a business analyst and all. At the same time, if you want to enable any kind of VPC customizations and all network conditions and all, that has to be enabled. Because normally these are all something which was disabled. So wherein if you want to enable it, We can enable network conditions and encrypt conditions and all that. So next, whatever the roles, service roles we have in context to the ML activities, if you want to update everything in manual service roles and all, so wherein we can update, right? So this is where generally we have to create different roles here, right? So whatever the kind of roles do we have and all, everything we have to select it. Based on that, whatever the needed roles to be created, everything can be done here. So this is how generally a sageMaker is what something which normally we use it whenever we are working. One of the machine learning tool, prominent machine learning tool, especially in the field of cloud applications when we are using AWS and all. So this is one of the tool which normally we use it. So people who are transforming their career into business analysis or upgrading themselves into the field of BA, right? So updating their career or updating their experience or updating their skill sets and all everything in the field of AI machine learning, which is a constant process. This is something which is helpful for people to learn more so that in order to progress ourselves in future professionally, this is one of the tool which is majorly used for us to um, have some experience hands-on so that it is more useful for us in professional career to attain our professional career in next level. So this is all about session today. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, please reach out to the contact details which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.